completed your then takhasus fil fiqh, the Iftaa program in Darul Karachi, which was again for how many years? 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
2 years. And then you came back to the UK. And then was this then the start of when you began serving the community, or did you then venture out to other places, other countries to then seek? I know you mentioned you visited Syria. Is this where then Syria came into the picture? If you can speak a bit about that.
So now that's another chapter of my life. So it is in the third decade. After I came back from Karachi, Pakistan, I started teaching a bit here in Leicester, in our madrasa. I taught 1 or 2 lessons the first 2 years, classes, some books. I remember that I was teaching a hifz class as well, and alimiyya as well, for about half a year or a year, because I was thinking what to do. Shall I now just start teaching? I've completed my studies and start Darul Iftaa here. So I had already started teaching, but then I just suddenly thought, I want to go and study in an Arab world. I want to see something slightly different. There was a friend of mine called Shaykh Zakir. He's actually here in Leicester as well. He was studying already in Syria. So what I did was I was going Umrah, so I took a ticket via Syria, via Damascus, and he was there. He said to me, yeah, come, I'm here, inshallah, I'll be your host, be my guest. So I think 2-3 days I stayed with him. He took me around just to see. And then I went Umrah, and after Umrah I came back to the UK, and then I made my mind up. Now this was again my own idea, because I wanted to go to the Arab world somewhere. Again, Azhar came into the consideration, into the discussion, but I think I had already made that decision. Discussion was done before I went to study in Darul Karachi. So, and I didn't want to go to Medina Munawwara as well to study at the Jami' Islamiyya. And Syria was new, it was unheard of, especially for those students who studied in the traditional Darul seminaries, whether at Darul Berry. Nobody even knew where Syria was or where it existed, like it was unheard of. Azhar, some people heard of, and Medina Munawwara, but Syria was not heard of. And also maybe it's a very different background, it's different, very different. So it was unheard of for Darul graduates, especially from those Darul graduates, graduates of those Darul that are affiliated to or have the same understanding of the Darul Deoband seminary in subcontinent. But I thought, I just want to go and just taste and experience something slightly different, a different flavor. I've had strawberry flavor, vanilla flavor, banana flavor, different flavors. So I wanted a bit of different type of flavor. This was maybe like, I don't know, some different type of flavor. I saw the Darul Karachi flavor, Darul Berry flavor. This was a different flavor. And again, I would like to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I made that decision. I would like to thank my father as well, because these second 2 decisions were my own decisions. Darul Karachi was my own. And my father understood as well. It was my decision, but he completely accepted and understood, because he has ultimate love and respect for Shaykh Mufti Uthmani. But Syria was completely new to him as well. He didn't know whether I'm going to Syria to get married, or I'm going to what am I doing in Syria? What is Syria? He doesn't even know which part of the world. It's somewhere in the Arab world, but who teaches there? What's going on? No idea. But I convinced him. And not just that he accepted and he agreed, but may Allah reward him. Students always ask this. They say, how do you fund yourself when you studied? Throughout my study, whether the study was on the insistence and the recommendation, or the insistence or the command of my father, or the study was through my own intention or my own desire, he always funded everything. He wasn't like, okay, this I haven't told you to go and study, so okay, you fund your own self. No, Darul Karachi, traveling, staying there, eating, it was very cheap, both places. But Syria as well, okay, if you want to go there. My father was very strict about spending money on dunya. So I remember, like, he would never let us spend money on, we had no television at home, and none of those kind of things. And on clothes, Because when I was growing up, my friends got this particular brand, and I wanted, no, we don't wear brands, we don't waste money on brands. I remember I bought a football T-shirt and he cut it into pieces. It's like, you're not going to wear a football T-shirt in those days. A Liverpool football T-shirt, and he took scissors and he cut it. I got, a friend gave it to me. So and those things, he was very strict. But if you came to Deen, any book you want to buy, anywhere you want to study, here's the money, no problem. Like as much money you want. Even all these books that I got here, he gave me all the money to buy all the books. When I was leaving Syria, I'll talk about it later, I did a whole a collecting of books, and I just told my father, I need a couple of £1,000. He said, okay, sort it out, send the money, get all your books you want. So any book I needed, everything, and in Syria as well, the full funding. Because a lot of students who came there, they used to work part-time on the side. They used to teach English in a Islamic, in a school or an English language center or something like that. It's very difficult. But alhamdulillah, may Allah reward him and give him all the rewards for this. I never had to do any of that. I gave all the money. So I went to Syria. I stayed in Syria for 2 years. In Syria, I officially enrolled in an institute. But that was really number one for stay purposes, because you can't just go there and not be officially enrolled. Otherwise, the government will not allow you. You won't get the visa. You need a proper student visa, which is endorsed by and accepted by a recognized institute there. So you have the Damascus University, or you have the Ma'had al-Fath al-Islami, or Jami' bin Nur. So I enrolled officially at the Ma'had al-Fath al-Islami, which is a institute where people do MAs and PhD, they do BAs and MAs, and it's affiliated to the Azhar University. But that wasn't my main objective. My main objective was to stay in Syria, learn Arabic, attend the private duruses. I actually have got a letter here. I wrote to Mufti Uthmani about Syria, that I'm going there, or I am there. And he wrote back, I've got a reply. He said, MashaAllah, may Allah bless you, you stay there. Whilst there, try to seek knowledge from traditional classical scholars, more so than the university setups. If you can, try to go to classical, older, traditional scholars and attend their private duruses and their masajid duruses. I've got a letter here. It's a small one paragraph. Because all my letters I've written to him and Mufti Rafi and any other, there's a few from letters I wrote to Shaykh Mutala, Shaykh Mahmoud, Shaykh Uthmani. I've got all my letters here. All the files, these are all the files of letters at the bottom. So that was my main objective. Ma'had al-Fath al-Islami, I don't know how it is now, because now Syria's now it's not like how it is. People can't even go there after the war, etc. But there was somebody called Shaykh Abdul Farfour who was the main person in charge. So I officially enrolled in the MA program there. The MA program, because the Darul program, I got them to recognize it as a BA. I took the certificates and I got all my Shahada certificates from Darul Berry. They did some special ones. I wrote to them and they sent them all to me, Shahada and this and that, all sorts of different documents. And they just said, okay. They took a test exam and they said, you can go and enroll into MA, Masters in Islamic Studies. So I enrolled in the Masters of Islamic Studies at al-Fath al-Islami. That's 2 years, but the third year you have to write a maqala, a thesis, and you have to go Egypt. So I did the 2 years and I didn't do the third year there as well, so I didn't get the official MA, certificate. I could still, because I've got the exams, everything done. I thought to myself, maybe later I could just write an article, thesis in Arabic, and send it to Azhar. Azhar gives you masters based on that. But what I used to do was, down there, attend private duruses. Now the private duruses, mashallah, these Syria private duruses with the mashayikh. Many are Hanafis, many are Shafi'is, very Ash'ari Maturidi. You could say very I don't like these names and groups, but very anti-Salafi type as well, and Arabs. But it's a very different kind of background, a very different flavor. So I used to go and attend, like, for example, there was one Shaykh, Shaykh Abdul-Razzaq Halabi. Shaykh Abdul-Razzaq Halabi was shuyukh al-Sham, like he was the Shaykh of all the shuyukh. He was in his late 70s, 80s. When I was there, he was old. He passed away in 2012. It's 10 years since he passed away. Rahimahullah. He was originally from Halab, which is Aleppo, another city, not Damascus. But he taught, and he was the Shaykh. He used to teach and have a dars in the Jami' al-Umawi, the Umayyad mosque in Damascus. He used to teach, he used to have a dars in Raddul Muhtar. This is Raddul Muhtar, Fatawa Shami of Ibn Abidin. He used to teach that. A great jurist of the Hanafi madhab, but a very old classical type, very traditional, Shaykh Abdul-Razzaq Halabi. So I used to attend some of his lessons, but then one of the things I did was that in Syria we had one or two different shuyukhs who would grant students ijazah, permission in memorization of the Quran. So in the subcontinent we have all these ijazat. So like for example in hadith, you read Sahih al-Bukhari by a shaykh who read by someone else, who read by someone else, who read by someone else. You've got a chain, isnad, going all the way back to Imam al-Bukhari. Likewise all the 6 books of hadith. And maybe some other books as well. But what we don't have in the subcontinent is an ijazah in Quran, tahfidh of Quran. It's not common. It might be, but it's not common. Now I memorized the Quran when I was 9 years of age, young child. But there's no ijazah. This ijazah is of barakah. So I came to know that Shaykh Abdul-Razzaq al-Halabi gives this ijazah. And not just Shaykh Abdul-Razzaq Halabi, there was one or two others as well, and also there were students coming and they used to recite Quran in different qira'at, Hafs and Asim. You could recite in the 10 qira'at and receive ijazah in 10. But I didn't have time for that. I wasn't really interested in this qira'at of Ashara and Sab'a and all of that kind of thing. So I just said I want to read. So students they used to come, like, there used to be different times, after Fajr and before Dhuhr and after Dhuhr. So I chose the time just before Dhuhr because I used to have like an hour before Dhuhr. So I used to go to Jami' al-Umawi in his office. There used to be a line of students, 10, 12. And you get about 10 minutes to recite by him with tajweed. I remember for 1 week he just kept on telling me to repeat Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Every mad and every, ghunna and ikhfa and everything. I think one thing I improved on was my pronunciation of the Arabic language when I studied in Syria. So anyway, it took me over a year. I told him I've already memorized the Quran, but he said no, you can't read more than a page, 6 lines. There were some students who were memorizing and coming. I said I memorized it when I was a young child. He said no, with tajweed, and plus there's no time. There's a whole line of people. You can't just come and read 2 juz to me. So anyway, but then I got close to him as well. He started liking me, and he used to read some, he used to say some things to me in Urdu and pani lao and things like that. He knew some words in Turkish, in Urdu, and even some words in English. So then after about 6, 7 juz, he started listening to 2, 3 sides, and then I started reading one quarter every day. And I got used to the way of reading. So alhamdulillah, he afterwards gave me this ijazah, and I have the ijazah. He gives everyone one, this massive ijazah. We've got it. I've put it in a frame and it's on the wall down there. Maybe you can take a picture and just show it. That's a whole chain going from him. So basically, it says here that this student has recited the Quran by heart from Surah Al-Fatiha to Surah Al-Nas, all of the Quran, to me through the qira'ah of Hafs and Asim. From Hafs and Asim qira'ah, I read the whole Quran by memory to my Shaykh through the qira'ah of Hafs and Asim, who was such and such Shaykh, who read to his Shaykh. The whole list there, I think there's 43 names. I think it goes to about 42, 43. Teacher after teacher after teacher, Shaykh after Shaykh after Shaykh, all the way to Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, who recited the whole Quran upon the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who through Jibreel received the Quran from Allah. So this is a chain of Quran all the way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's one thing I did. Other shuyukh down there, I'm going to try to make this short, but other shuyukh, there was somebody called Shaykh Nur Itr. He also passed away recently. A great muhaddith. He used to have a dars every week in a masjid called Jami' Shamsiyah. One thing common again, I found that many of the shuyukh down there, they were all had ultimate respect for Mufti Taqi Uthmani. But all of them, Shaykh Nur ibn Adam, and I told him I studied by Shaykh Taqi Uthmani. He said, Shaykh Taqi Uthmani, mashallah, huwa shaykhuna, huwa shaykh, I meet him at Islamic Fiqh Academy sometimes, and Mufti Taqi Uthmani visited Syria in 1980s, and then made another journey as well. Shaykh Nur ibn Adam stayed with him from airport to airport, collected him, and upon his arrival, stayed with him everywhere and dropped him off until his last day. And then I remember from Syria, I actually once made a visit to Karachi. Shaykh Nuruddin Itar told me that, is it possible for you that take some books for me to gift, his own written books. Shaykh Nuruddin Itar was a great muhaddith. I have some of his books. He wrote a shara on Ibn Hajar's Bulugh al-Maram called I'lam al-Anam. He's edited a lot of the usul hadith books, Sharh Nukhbat al-Fikr and Irshad of Imam Nawawi, and so many. Even Shaykh Abdul Fattah Ghudda used to praise him. He was a son-in-law of Shaykh Abdullah Sirajuddin, who is the commentator of Mandhum al-Bayquniyah. Even Shaykh Nuruddin Itar was from Halab, from Aleppo, but he used to teach and reside in Damascus. So I remember I said to him, yeah, I can take all the books. And then so he asked me, when are you traveling? I said, this day. He said, okay, inshallah, come a day before. So I went to his house. When I went to his house, I saw two piles. One pile was for Mufti Taqi Uthmani, another pile was for me, of all his books. He said, this is all for you, gift, and these are all books for Mufti Taqi Uthmani. So I took them all with me to Karachi. So I used to attend his lessons. There was another sheikh called Shaykh Abdul Latif Farfour al-Hassani. Shaykh Abdul Latif Farfour al-Hassani, his father was a famous, an amazing scholar of Syria called Shaykh Muhammad Salih Farfour. I normally say to the students, Shaykh Salih Farfour of Syria is like the Shaykh Zakaria of Indian subcontinent. I mean, everyone has their own type of shuyukh. Not everyone's shaykh is a shaykh for every part of the globe. He had 4 sons, all of them, or he's like Mufti Shafi rahimahullah, for example, Shaykh Salih al-Farfour. His sons are all like Mufti Rafi, Mufti Taqi. These guys are Shaykh Abdul Latif Farfour, Shaykh Husamuddin Farfour, Shaykh Waliuddin Farfour, Shihabuddin Farfour. Shaykh Husamuddin Farfour is the principal of Mahad al-Fath al-Islami, where I had officially enrolled, but I didn't get to know him much. The eldest son was Shaykh Abdul Latif al-Farfour al-Hassani. Again, passed away. He passed away in Malaysia when the Syrian war happened. His students in Malaysia said, you come here, and they took him there, and then he passed away there. I became very close to him and his students. Now, he reminded me a bit of the Hakim Akhtar Sahib. In Karachi, remember every Friday I used to go and eat there, and then give me apple and banana on the way back. I used to spend my Friday with Shaykh Abdul Latif Farfour, and he used to have like a zawiya as well, and his students. Very similar setup. They used to have like a nasheed gathering and a hadra gathering, and he used to have a dars and his students. So with one of his students, I studied different books, Aqidah Tahawiyya, and he has a book, Az-Zad. We still use Az-Zad, Min Usul al-Fiqh al-Islami. He wrote that. He's got two-volume books, Ibn Abidin wa Atharuhu fi al-Fiqh al-Islami. His brother wrote, a commentary, Usul al-Fiqh, Al-Mudhib fi Usul al-Madhab, Dr. Waliuddin. He just passed away last year as well. That's his brother's. Madarik al-Haq, that's his brother as well. Waliuddin Farfour. His brother was an Usul al-Fiqh master who used to teach at Mahad al-Fath al-Islami. So I attended his brother's lessons there. But he never used to teach. He used to have a place in the Olden area of Damascus, Sadat area. So I used to go there on Fridays. I used to do my Jum'ah there. I used to eat with them. I used to breakfast. The Syrian people, it's just the hospitality. Everything's amazing. They give food in your mouth. And his son, Shaykh Ahmed, the waraqa inabs and fattoush and falafels and all the Syrian type of food, and it's amazing. I stayed in a place called Ruknuddin. I rented a house there, flat. Ruknuddin area, a lot of students used to stay there. And every day I used to go to Fath al-Islami, take a bus, and then come back, and then attend different duruses, once a week there, once a week there. Also, there was a sheikh called Sheikh Mujir al-Khatib al-Hassani. He's actually in Turkey now. He's quite popular in Turkey, and he was a kind of a friend / teacher. I met him just recently when I went to Turkey as well. So I told him, I said, look, I want to read some books with you privately. And one of the things in Syria for students is that, I felt after studying at Darul, like I said, I didn't study too well in the initial years, especially my Nahwa Sarf. I started becoming serious towards the end, and then I studied in Darul Karachi. So I thought, what, one of the things I want to do is I want to study those books again. Because now when I go there teaching, etc., I probably don't know. I still probably don't know as I ought to know. But you can't in England say, you've done your Iftaa course and I want to study some Nahwa Sarf again. It's a bit embarrassing. So I did some Nahwa again in Syria, privately, some Sarf again. Qatrun Nada I read, and some other books. I did some practice of my ibara of Arabic language. I did Aqidah Tahawiyya, I did Usul al-Fiqh again. So that really helped. So Shaykh Mujir al-Khatib, I studied Sharh Nukhbat al-Fikr with him. I used to go to his house. Now, Syrian people, just their akhlaq, their manners, their character, their sweetness, it's just unique. The way is amazing. So even the teachers and everyone's very, very gentle and jovial and sweet. And so that's one thing I learned from there. So Shaykh Mujir al-Khatib al-Hasani, I used to go to his house, he used to give me tea, everything, and just one-to-one, Sharh Nukhbat al-Fikr. There was another Shaykh, the students down there, subhanAllah, they used to all try to find teachers who could teach them privately. The students used to run behind the teachers, not the teachers running, why are you not coming, you're skiving. Because everyone's mature. Most people coming to study there are either married or in their early 20s or reverts. They're coming on their own accord, they're spending money, they're funding their own selves. So no one's forced them to study. These are not 16, 17-year-old teenagers in a Darul. That's why they study well. I have some friends who graduated from university, from Canada, from America, from the UK, graduated, and then at the age of 22 they've come to study until the age of 29. People like Imam Zaid Shakir, and he was there when I was studying there. Sheikh Faraz Rabbani, all these guys studied in Syria. But in their old age, I'm not old age, but in their 20s, mid-20s, late 20s, even early 30s, they're mature, they're understanding. So we used to see a lot of the students going to teachers, please can you give us time, please can you give us time, can I read this book with you? Now the senior teachers, you couldn't study by them because they're too busy. But the second level, you could find them, you could study by them, like 2 of you, 3 of you. Remember I did a bit of Shafi'i fiqh as well. There was a teacher, me, a Turkish student and a Syrian student. Every morning before Fajr Salah, every Saturday morning he gave us a time. I read the book Umdatul Salik. This is Umdatul Salik, Shafi'i fiqh. I read this book by him. I've got to look. This is a Shafi'i fiqh, like the Quduri of the Hanafi madhab. I've got all my notes, etc. on it. I read this by that Sheikh at his house. Not just I read by him, we used to go after Fajr, 3 of us, he used to teach us and give us a free breakfast. And there's no fees to study by. He used to bring, after he finished studying, his wife used to cook a massive breakfast in a big tray with Syrian type of breakfast, and with green tea, mint tea, and he used to bring it, and then he used to sit. We used to be sitting on the sofas and studying. He used to sit down on the floor and pour all the tea and give it to us. So teach us, feed us, everything for free. And a lot of the teachers used to do that. And there were some students who came from the UK who were studying there. Also, I would like to mention Shaykh Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan al-Buti, the martyred Shaheed, rahimahullah. People had differences with his political stances towards the end, and he got martyred. But he was a unique scholar. It was very difficult to get to know him personally, because he used to have bodyguards around him as well, but he was very busy. He used to teach once a week, or he used to come to the Mahad al-Fath al-Islami, so I used to go and attend his lessons there. Even there, I used to just attend his, because in Syria, people used to just attend his lessons. He used to teach Aqidah in the Damascus University. So even though I wasn't enrolled, every Thursday from 9 till 12, he used to teach Aqidah. So every Thursday I used to go there. A lot of students from different institutes would just attend those. Now, students used to come there. We used to reach there 8:30, but we couldn't get space to sit. All the In Damascus University, 500 seats are all gone. Students stood for 3 hours with their books and pen and writing for 3 hours, with a break in the middle, 15-20 minutes. Sitting on window, on the windowsills and etc. and some on the floor, and it was. So I attended those. That was my Aqidah understanding, and he's got some amazing books. Shaykh Sayyid Ramadan al-Bouti, Kubra al-Yaqiniyat al-Kawniyya, and just this. I have some of his books. This is Qadaya Fiqhiyya Mu'asara, Shaykh Sayyid Ramadan al-Bouti. And then he used to have an Usul al-Fiqh lesson in the Mahd al-Fath al-Islami. He used to teach Imam Shatibi's book Al-Muwafaqat, high level book. I used to attend those as well. And then he used to have 2 public lessons in the Jami'atul Iman. Jami'atul Iman is a massive masjid. Every Thursday and every Monday, every Thursday night between Maghrib and Isha, he used to teach Riyadh al-Salihin. He taught that for 20 years. I don't know if he completed it. One hadith for about 3-4 weeks. There used to be at least 3,000-4,000 people who used to attend that. People used to fly in from other cities. Masjid was packed. And every Monday, he used to teach the Hikam al-Ata'iyya. I think I have his Hikam al-Ata'iyya. There were, this is Ma'an Nas, with the people, his fatawa. So he used to teach Hikam al-Ata'iyya, his poetry of Imam ibn Ata'illah Secondary, and his commentary, and that got published as well. He's an author of like 70-80 books. Hada walidi, this is my father, and Aqidah, and so many times. Shaykh Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan al-Bouti. I got to know his son really well, but I met him on a few occasions, but not personally. So I used to attend the Riyadh al-Salihin one. And then one of the things in Syria I saw, which I learnt as well, which was different from the subcontinent, was the general public, their desire to learn deen. In the subcontinent, is either you're a alim, alimiya, or you're a jahil. Either you become a maulana, alim, or you stay a jahil. It's like either here or there. There's only 2 teams in this division. Either there or there. In Syria, it's not like that. The public learn. There's public duruses in the masajid. There was one sheikh who I got to know as well, and I really liked as well. He's actually still alive. Shaykh Usama al-Rifa'i. He's in Turkey now. Probably in his late 70s or 80s now. There was a very big masjid. His father was a great sheikh, and the name of the masjid was Jami'atul Rifa'i. I used to try to do my Jum'ah there quite a lot. I used to go to Shaykh Abdul Latif Farfour's place, but some Jum'ahs I used to try to offer them in his masjid. He would give a 45-minute Jum'ah khutbah. I remember when I was there, he was teaching the hadith Jibra'il in the Jum'ah khutbah. So Mal Ihsan, for the past 4 weeks, Jum'ah khutbah is on Mal Ihsan. Jibra'il alayhi salam came and asked, he gives a dars. Jum'ah khutbah is a dars, 45 minutes khutbah. I have all the recordings as well. But he used to have, after Jum'ah used to be his Q&A session as well, in the masjid. But in that masjid, after Fajr Salah, every single day, 6 days of the week, besides Friday, he used to have durus for the public. Every day, 3 different books. One day, Musnad Ahmad, Qatrul Lada in Nahu, Musnad Ahmad in Hadith, Aqidah Tahawiyya. Another day, maybe Muwatta Imam Malik, a book on Usul al-Hadith, and a fiqh book. Al-Majmu', one day was Majmu' of Imam Nawawi, he's a Shafi'i. Different books. Who used to attend these classes? Doctors, lawyers, barristers, and tullab al-ilm, whoever wanted to. It was open. After Fajr Salah, 15 minutes, they used to sit in the masjid, do the dhikr, adhkar, whatever. Everybody used to head downstairs into the main room. There used to be about 70-80 people. And the person who used to read from the book was a doctor. And these guys used to all, after Fajr, 1.5, 2 hours, study there. And then they would all go back, go home, change their clothes, get into their work gear, and someone's opening a pharmacy, someone's a doctor, someone's going to their work, all of them. So the public used to learn about deen. And that's the understanding I got from there, that deen is not just in a madrasa and then you stay a jahil. No, give courses. The general public should study Aqidah Tahawiyya and fiqh and hadith and different things. So this was Shaykh Usama al-Rifa'i. Hafidahullah, he's still alive. And yeah, just one last thing, I just made 1 or 2 notes about Syria. Again, what I tried to do here, this is the last part about Syria, was I tried to see everyone taste different flavors. So like in Pakistan, even though in Pakistan it wasn't outside the box, but still different types of madaris, institutes, seminaries, scholars, shuyukh, ulama. In Syria, it was already different. Like for example, one thing that just comes to mind, I got a culture shock when I saw so many shuyukh having trimmed and small beards. So now I've come from Darul Berry, where anyone who used to trim one hair used to be expelled. I'm just exaggerating, but if you just one hair, you're gone, finish. Like beard is like a massive big thing, especially in Darul Uloom Berry, because Shaykh al-Hadith Maulana Zakaria rahimahullah was very, very, very particular. He actually wrote a whole book, and we have the book there. Shaykh al-Hadith Maulana Zakaria rahimahullah, he wrote a book on the beard. So anyway, when I went to, and in Darul Karachi also, in the subcontinent madaris, beard is really important. When I went to Syria, so many shuyukh I saw had trimmed beards, smaller beards. So first of all, I got a shock. Now, I always tell the students that, look, one thing that taught me was I became a bit more tolerant over months. So when I first, this is the book, when I first went there, I just could not, accept the fact that a teacher is teaching there and doesn't look like a big sheikh with a big beard. So he's teaching, but I'm just thinking about his beard. Why is his beard small? He's giving a lecture, but why is he, maybe it's not working. Maybe this is a bit big on this side. It's like everything's about the beard, because that's the kind of mentality I had. So then I thought, why don't they keep it? I asked some students that don't know it's like fard in Islam, or it's wajib and it's so important. And then I remembered Shaykh al-Hadith Maulana Zakaria rahimahullah. He has a book written in Arabic called Wujubu I'fa al-Lihya, the necessity of lengthening the beard. So I asked around in Syria, anyone seen this book? Many people didn't know of this book. There was one publishing house, only they had this book. They used to, there was a stall outside once, and I saw the book. I said, this is a book. So I told some of my friends, students, I said, look, this is our Sheikh's Sheikh who's written this book. They said, no, this is Shaykh bin Baz's book. The Salafis, they put too much emphasis, the Saudis. Because down there the understanding was only the Saudis have big beards. Like the Hanafis, and we trim beards. It was like that kind of mentality. Because one of the non-madhabi understanding is like, there's an opinion that you just don't trim it, even if it gets to your belly button or even to your feet if you want. Just don't touch the zahir. So they said, no, this is Shaykh bin Baz's book. I said, no. I looked at the book and Shaykh bin Baz's name was there because this was a book written by Shaykh Zakaria rahimahullah, but a Saudi student or a scholar had republished it with his own footnotes, his editing, and he got a foreword written by Shaykh bin Baz, and Shaykh bin Baz who was the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia. He's passed away now, rahimahullah. His name was like maybe even in a larger font looked, appeared bigger than the actual author, Shaykh al-Hadith, Shaykh Zakaria rahimahullah. So anyone who even knew of this book thought it's a Saudi, Shaykh bin Baz, Mufti of Saudi Arabia, his book. So I said, this book needs to be republished in Syria, with the removal of this Shaykh bin Baz name and his students' footnotes, and I'll put footnotes. This is my Shaykh's Shaykh. We should publish this book, and everyone should know about this book. So I actually ordered a couple of old copies. I was very passionate at that time. Really old copies of Wujubu I'fa al-Lihya. Nobody was prepared to publish it, but there was one publishing house, Maktabat al-Fajr, who was a bit more inclined towards Salafism, but there was nobody else. He was hidingly, he said, I'll publish it. So then I published this book. This is the book. I've only got one copy. Wujubu I'fa al-Lihya. I wrote Ta'lif al-Muhaddith al-Kabir, al-Imam, al-Shaykh Muhammad Zakaria al-Kahndahlawi. اعتنى به وعلق عليه. Edited and footnotes by Muhammad ibn Adam al-Kawthari. And then I got my teacher, the Shaykh here, Shaykh al-Hadith Maulana Yusuf Mutala, to write a foreword as well in Arabic. He wrote a foreword for me. And then I wrote an introduction, and this is the book, and I put a lot of footnotes. I got it published, and I went to all the shuyukh and gave one copy to them as a gift. To the point that it was very embarrassing. I mean, I shouldn't have done that. But that time I didn't know. I should mention Shaykh Wahab al-Zuhaili. Shaykh Wahab al-Zuhaili also passed away. He's actually a very good friend. Mufti Taqi Uthmani says he's one of my closest, one of my best friends on the level of Islamic Fiqh Academy. He passed away just 3-4 years ago. His famous book I have here, Al-Fiqh al-Islami wa Adillatuhu. 11 volumes. He used to live very close. I went to his house once. I used to attend some of his lessons in Shafi'i Fiqh. I once asked him, I said, how did you write this? He said, for 6 days a week, I used to start 4 a.m. till 11 p.m. every single day, only go for Jama'ah, Salah, and to the washroom and have my food. Other than that, I used to sit with a pen and write. And that's how I wrote Al-Fiqh al-Islami wa Adillatuhu. 4 a.m. till 11 p.m. Nothing else. For 6 days a week. Just once a week, I used to go some lecture somewhere. So Shaykh Wahab al-Zuhaili, he's also passed away as well. I remember giving one to him as well, and I went giving. But now some students say that does that mean we can all start trimming our beards? I said, no, this is the point. You can think something is wrong, but you can respect a different opinion. You can tolerate it. It's not completely like crazy opinion. Now they have an opinion. There could be other reasons. There's political reasons, like in Egypt. There are some political reasoning. But even if, from a fiqh point of view, if they have an opinion that, because there's an opinion that if they say one fist, but one fist kama yaf'aluhu ba'd al-mukhannath and etc., that if it makes you look like a effeminate type of, half man, half woman, feminine, then those type of opinions are there. So, like if someone asks me my opinion, I would say, yeah, one fist is wajib in the Hanafi madhab. But I would still have an absolute respect for a sheikh who has an opinion that you can trim it bits shorter than that. So I got that from Syria, just respecting differences of opinion, being more tolerant. And this was the last part I wanted to talk about, that in Karachi I was going different places. Here I was going to all these different places. I wanted to taste everything. Even things which I probably didn't agree with. So I don't know if some of the viewers know about the dhikr gatherings, the hadras. So I wanted to attend the hadras as well. They were very enjoyable entertainment as well. There was somebody called Shaykh Salih Hamawi. He's passed away as well, rahimahullah. He had a masjid called Jami' al-Sadat. Every Thursday night, Islamically Friday night, he used to have a hadra gathering. Hadra is the Sufi dhikr gathering. We all stand Allah, 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 and like a lot of jumping, and you can check on YouTube. His videos are there as well. He used to have his own group, all the young students there, and so I got to know them. And it used to be really enjoyable. I used to love going there, and he used to make me, sit close to him. So I used to attend those hadra gatherings. Now, for a student coming from Darul Deoband seminary, affiliated seminary, Karachi, I actually wrote a question from there to Karachi in Arabic without my name. Are these hadras allowed or not? Because I wanted to know. And the answer is that they don't agree with it, of course. So for someone like that to do those kind of things, it's like completely, this is bid'ah, this is wrong. There was a famous sheikh called Shaykh Abdul-Rahman Shaghuri. Famous Sufi sheikh. He's passed away. I attended some of his hadras. And then I went to Halab, Aleppo, some of the Sufi sheikhs there as well. I had a really good friend who used to study with me, Zakaria Abu Khashaba. So with him I attended some of the weddings there, some of the Syrian weddings, some of the hadra gatherings, some of the madrasas, institutes. And it's good to see all of this. Different flavors, different tastes, different manhaj, different ways and things that people do. And then you absorb everything, and then afterwards you can kind of make your mind up as to what you want to do and follow, inshallah. So that was Syria basically.
So Sheikh, mashallah, since you then traveled to these various different madaris, both in the subcontinent, here within Britain and then in Syria, did you see a difference in the madaris, the teaching, etc.? How would you describe the differences that were there in the teaching itself?
Between Syria and Pakistan and different places. Of course, each place is different. The difference between the madaris and the shuyukh and ulama of Pakistan, India and the UK, subcontinent and the Syrian ones, there are differences. In terms of the books as well, there's a lot of importance in the Syrian madaris or the shuyukh of Syria of reading books cover to cover, but not too much explanation sometimes. So they will say, let's read Radd al-Muhtar, 8 volumes. Shaykh Abdul-Razzaq al-Halabi, rahimahullah, did a khatam of this whole thing, like they say 2 times, I think. But maybe not everyone's understanding every part. Whereas in the subcontinent madaris, you read less. They're not trying to read cover to cover, except they do that with the 6 books. The 6 books is they do ibara. Like I always tell the students, like half the students, majority don't understand what's going on. Like, so that I'm opposed to that as well. Understand it, then do the ibara. So we do that for hadith, for barakah. And in the Syrian scholars, they do that with even quduri, with fiqh books. They want to cover like books. There's a lot of maqra and qira'ah business of books. The fahm is probably a bit less. So that, I felt was a difference. So these are some of the differences between, and like I said, some of the fiqh opinions. I gave an example of the beard issue. Some other issues as well in terms of the Syrian and the Hanafis of Pakistan. For example, in the Syrian Hanafis, they are more accommodating, or they are more open to taking an opinion from another madhab, rukhsa from another madhab. And one of the reasons for that is that because they have a lot of Hanafis there, a lot of Shafi'is there, you've got a family, one Hanafi, father's Hanafi, mother Shafi'i, son is Maliki, the daughter is Hanbali. So to go outside of your madhab doesn't become like as though you're going outside of Islam. Whereas in subcontinent, if someone went outside, they've gone to the other extreme. It's like if someone just combined prayers as though you've committed kufr. That's another extreme. So the balance is somewhere in the middle. So this is one of the differences, that they're more open to taking an opinion from another madhab, whereas in the subcontinent they are very strict. No, you have to stick to the Hanafi madhab. You have to stick, unless there's an absolute necessity that you come out of the madhab. So these are some differences in ways. They're still both Hanafis. The subcontinent are Hanafis, Syrians are Hanafis, Turks are similar. Turkish people, they're also Hanafis as well. But you get differences in all places. I remember, and also in in some of the other views, like I said, they were doing hadaras. In Syria, they used to do Mawlid gatherings. Now the Mawlid gatherings are different to the subcontinent Milad Sharif. They don't do marches and all that kind of. It's not that extreme, but they still have the concept of Mawlid gatherings. So they have qasaid, nasheed programs. So I attended some of those Mawlid gatherings, etc. They read the Burda and things like that. I remember I wrote an article on Milad and Mawlid. Why do the Deoband scholars prohibit Mawlid? And in there I was saying, no, they don't prohibit it. It's only certain things that they disagree with. And I was trying to, explain a lot of things which was more close to the Syrian way. I remember once when Shaykh Mufti Uthmani Hafidhullah came to the UK, he met me and he said, what have you written on the Mawlid? I have this many letters of complaint about you. That's when he started getting to know me more. Because I wrote it online when I wrote that article. People had written emails and letters to him that he's studied at Darul and he's got a position which is more close to, as they say, the Barelwis, for example. He's becoming of Barelwis, very close to the Barelwis, etc. Because Syrians, are more, maybe the Barelwis are more close to the Syrian way. Maybe, all of it is relative, to be honest. So he told me that. But again, the way he is, like, for him, it's not like, astaghfirullah, kufr. He's smiling, no problem. It's not a big deal. Then he said to me that I was sitting in Masjid Nabawi and someone came to me and he talked to me about you, that he's very much influenced by the Syrians. So I said to him, no, someone complained about the same thing, that you've written something, because I wrote an article on the Mawlid. So he said, I've got this many letters people have written to me, and also somebody in Masjid al-Nabawi came and told me about you. I just told him that, usne Sham mein padha hai. He's prayed in Sham, Syria, so he's got a bit of influence. No big deal. It's not the be-all and end-all of everything. It doesn't. This is the balance again. All of this also made me respect him more. Shaykh Mufti Taqi Uthmani Hafidhahullah. So anyway, I was a bit influenced, and but slowly again over the years, like I always say to, and I've said this to the students, and maybe you guys have heard this before many times, that all these different flavors, vanilla flavor, banana flavor, milkshake, chocolate flavor, strawberry flavor, all the different tastes and all the different flavors from within Pakistan, within UK, Darul Berry, UK teachers, Pakistan, different shuyukh, Syria, different shuyukh, and then also I went to other places, not to study, but after all of these experiences, I always tell the students, and this is my personal opinion, that the understanding of deen, the fahm and the understanding of deen that Mufti Taqi Uthmani has, and Darul Karachi in general has, and Shaykh al-Islam Mufti Muhammad Taqi Uthmani has, specifically, for me, that is the most balanced and the best understanding. It's the center ground for me. Like I tell the students, I put them all in like from far extreme to the left to the far extreme to the right. Like this group, we can't mention these group names, but you get the extreme from here to the extreme to the left. The Khawariji extreme on the right, like everything's kufr, shirk, bid'ah, like killing, murdering, like to the next, to the extreme, to the shirk type here. And even the Darul Deoband seminary affiliated people think Deobandis is like one group. It's not even a group, it's not a sect. It's Darul Deoband, is a madrasa. Within Darul Deoband, there's different, multiple opinions. Saharanpur is different to Darul Deoband. Nadwa is different to Darul Deoband. So scholars have different. So within them as well, like for example, the Darul Berry taste, which is probably milk strawberry type of greeny flavor. I don't know, strawberry is not green, but it's more salawat, love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, we all should have that, but a bit more in tasawwuf. And it's a very like a different flavor. Shaykh al-Hadith, Shaykh Zakaria rahimahullah's flavor, group dhikr, group gatherings, and it's a different flavor. If you look at Nadwa flavor, it's a different flavor. So I just saw all these flavors and tasted all of them, absorbed all of them, and then for me finally I settled on the flavor of Darul Karachi generally, and Shaykh Mufti Taqi Uthmani specifically, his understanding of deen, which actually comes from his father, Shaykh Mufti Muhammad Shafi'i rahimahullah, a great mufti and jurist, author of Ma'arif al-Quran, and which he took from Hakim al-Ummah Shaykh Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahimahullah. This is a silsila of barakah, like a chain of barakah. So this is for me the most balanced understanding of deen.
MashaAllah. So you also mentioned, Shaykh, that you travelled elsewhere. So you can briefly tell us about where else you travelled.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of study is only to Syria, but afterwards when I came back, now and then I just made some educational trips and journeys. So this wasn't like specifically to study, just to experience and taste. So those first few places was probably stayed 2 years in Syria, but afterwards I just very briefly visited some countries. Like for example, I visited Yemen in 2005. I wrote a whole article on it. It's on the website. I don't know if anyone's seen it. 10 days in the blessed lands of Yemen. Now in Yemen as well, I went to Sana'a. Sana'a is the capital. There's a massive madrasa called Jami'atul Iman. Massive. The sheikh who established it was, his name, I think is still alive, Shaykh, forgetting, Zindani, Shaykh Abdul-Majid Zindani. But I went there. They're very similar to the Darul Deoband seminary type. Very strict on hadith. They're very against bid'ah, but a massive 10,000 students. Shaykh Mufti Taqi Uthmani went there, who was invited for their first graduation ceremony in 2005 or 2001 or something like that. This is the capital, Sana'a, Yemen. So I stayed there, and then I took a 7-hour coach journey, and I went to Hadramaut. Hadramaut is like, I was there, one student, when he said to me, where are you going in Sana'a, the capital? I said, I'm going to go to Hadramaut. He says, why are you going to Hadramaut? That's Ma'qal al-Sufiya. That's the stronghold of the Sufis. That's a Sufi area. So half of Yemen is split, Sufi, and this is non-Sufi Salafi type. But down there I went to Hadramaut. Hadramaut is where you have Tarim, Darul Mustafa. Darul Mustafa head is Habib Umar bin Hafid, Habib Ali al-Jifri. They both came here in the UK as well. Habib Ali came here. He came to this place, to Darul Iftaa. He came downstairs, and we had breakfast with him. We had lunch with him downstairs. I actually took him to Darul Berry, and I took him to a lot of places, Habib Umar as well, because after I visited them, I got to know them. So I went to Hadramaut. Habib Ali, when the first day I went, he invited me. I had food on balcony of his house. Habib Umar invited me. I stayed there for a few days and got to know them. It's a very Sufi type of. Now I don't agree with everything they do and their ways, but still, there's a lot of things like they're common. And Habib Umar was so happy to see me, and he was talking about Shaykh Zakaria rahimahullah, and he said his father used to go in Jama'at Tabligh, and his father wrote a qasida in praise of Shaykh Zakaria and his book when he completed Awjuzul Masalik. And then I found it in one of the books, and I gave a photocopy to him, and he was so happy. I took him to Darul in Blackburn when he came to the UK, and he mentioned this to the students. He gave a talk. I gave the summary in English. He talked in Arabic. Habib Umar bin Hafiz and Habib Ali al-Jifri had a food invitation by Shaykh al-Hadith Maulana Yusuf Mutala rahimahullah in Blackburn. I took him there. I went with myself. I was very closely attached to everybody at that time. So Yemen I went. Also went to Egypt again for a few weeks. Not officially to study. Some students were studying there. They told me to come, but I just wanted to just see how Azhar is, and I visited Azhar, attended some duruses there. Shaykh Ali Jum'ah, the Mufti of Egypt, attended some of his lessons, duruses, different places. There was one Shaykh, I remember, I'm forgetting his name, on the outskirts of Cairo. Amazing. He used to teach Imam Ibn al-Qayyim's books and some of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah's books, but he used to give a dars. He used to lead Salah himself every day, and in 3 days he used to complete Quran Khatam in 3 prayers. So he used to have a long Maghrib prayer, long Isha prayer, long Fajr prayer. I remember we performed our Maghrib Salah in Azhar Masjid in Cairo. We finished, we completed our Sunnah, everything, because we were going to see him after Maghrib. We sat for a while. Then I was saying to brothers, come on, we need to go there. They said, no, don't worry, we'll see him after Maghrib. We came outside, we had some coffee or some tea or something, went to a bookshop slowly, then took a taxi, about 20 minutes drive, half an hour, and then we had to walk, right? It was in the, because the car can't reach to that area. It's a place where close to Imam Shafi'i's grave. Harratul Imam Shafi'i. So it was at least 45 minutes after Maghrib. Nearly coming close to an hour after Maghrib in Azhar. And the brothers who were with me, 3 or 4 of us, said, okay, this is the masjid. We entered, and they were still in the second rak'ah of Maghrib. And he was reading, Surah Al-Baqarah, and luckily we were there. Well, luckily, not unluckily, we joined the second rak'ah. In 1 page, he completed the second rak'ah, and وَرْحَمْنَا وَغْفِرْ لَنَا. What's the end of the Surah Al-Baqarah? غفرانك اغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين الله أكبر. And then 3rd rak'ah. And then we met him after Salah, and we had food. He was the Shaykh who told me, he said, I don't think it's allowed for Muslims to reside in these Western countries. But anyway, it was really good meeting him, and so he completes another surah in Isha and then Fajr. So, and I bought a lot of books. One of the things I did was I spent a whole day trying to collect books. One of the things I did in Syria as well, before I completed my studies, I used to make a list of books as a student. Especially, for students, it's good to look at the end, the bibliographies. So I used to go through all the Arabic bibliographies. I've got it here, all my list that I made of books over the last 2-3 years of my study in Syria. And then Lebanon, where all the major book publishing houses are. So I went to Lebanon 2-3 times. It's just a taxi, 3 hours drive. You take a taxi and you go to Lebanon, Beirut. And I went there and I gathered all my books. In Egypt as well, I got books. I used to go Jordan from Syria. When I studied in Syria, I went many times. I used to go and meet my friend Sheikh Faraz Rabbani. And I probably talked to him about him later in the fatwa. But there was Shaykh Nur who used to live Shaykh Nur, and his students, they used to be in a particular area, so I used to go and reside there, just stay there, just see how Jordan is. Jordan used to be, again, 2-3 hours by taxi from Syria, just cross the border. The time takes on the border, but traveling itself is only about 2.5-3 hours. So these were some of the countries I just visited to meet the shuyukh, see the different scholars, buy books. There was a famous Jordanian, well, originally Albanian, but living and residing in Jordan scholar, Sheikh Wahabi Sulaiman Ghawuji, passed away, rahimahullah. Hanafi scholar, I really wanted to meet him. I met him as well, alhamdulillah. Shaykh Shu'aib al-Rawut used to be in Jordan. I couldn't meet him. In Syria, I actually forgot, there was another Arnaut scholar. Yeah, he used to be the only Salafi inclined scholar. Hanbali, he was Hanbali, but he was against the Hadara and everything. But he was very balanced and probably didn't say everything that he could say. He wanted to say, because he was in Syria. So this is not the land of the, those Salafis. This is the land you get banned. All the books get banned straight away. But every day he used to sit between, he was originally from Albania. Arnaut is Albanian. Sheikh Shu'aib Arnaut is from there. Shaykh Abdul Qadir Arnaut. Shaykh Albani is from Albania. Albani means Albanian. And Shaykh Abdul Qadir Arnaut and Shaykh Albani, their parents had come together to Syria. They did hijrah. And they grew up in Syria, both of them. He used to talk about Shaykh Albani. He was, me and him, we were friends. We met together. We used to play around. He disagreed with him on certain things, but he agreed with him on certain other things. So I used to go like every now and then just to go and sit with him. Shaykh Shu'aib Arnaut, different scholar in Syria. From Hadra to Shaykh Shu'aib Arnaut, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Arnaut, that is like 120-degree turn. Anyone goes to Hadra, they're like Sufis, like impossible. They didn't like Shaykh Abdul Qadir Arnaut. And anyone who is with Shaykh Abdul Qadir Arnaut, they would think these guys are all doing bid'at. One person saw me there and saw me there. He goes like, what are you doing? You're there and you're there. How can you be in two different? If you're there, you're not there. But this is what I just did. I just went everywhere. Alhamdulillah. So these are some of the places I visited.